Greetings, salutations, and welcome back, RP fam. It is Thursday, which means it is buy, sell. I have week 6 episodes coming at you. I'm going to go over 3 buys and 3 sells this week like I usually do. This one is pretty wide receiver heavy. I do have one running back for you guys. I know that I try to switch it up when I can, but when I looked at who I wanted to highlight, it was pretty clear wide receiver was the area to target this week. A lot of movement at the top. I also have some mid-range guys and flex options as well. Please consider liking the video if you enjoy the content today. Subscribing to Relentless Press as well would be greatly appreciated. We are on our way to our first 1,000 subscribers, and if you have not hit the button, you can come along with us in the journey. We would love to have you. Make sure you guys drop your questions and comments down below. I love the engagement. By going forth, we get better together. My first buy, without any further ado, is Devontae Smith from Philly. He's currently sitting at wide receiver 27, and he has tanked as of late, which is perfect for us as buyers. He has less than 5 catches in 3 of his last 4 games, and in his last 3 contests, these are some statistics for you. 0 touchdowns after starting the year with back-to-back scores, 12 total catches, and 37 yards per game. He had 28 yards or less in 2 out of his last 3, and a pretty good secondary with the New York Jets is on deck. So basically, if you are an owner of Smith right now, the sky is falling for you, and that is where we as buyers can swoop in, because his squeaky wheel game or games are coming just like they did for A.J. Brown. After a rough week for A.J., you saw him get worked up. It was all over social media, and then what happens? Back-to-back monster performances for him. Well, guess who was upset on the sidelines last week? It was Devontae Smith. He had 1 catch and 6 yards. I'd be upset too because he is a stud. Slim Reaper leads this team in routes run. This dude was a wide receiver 10 overall last year. It is clear and obvious. We know the upside and I've seen it for a season. So he is a perfect target opportunity. Even though A.J. Brown continues to have those monster games, the coverage is going to have to shift for defenders sooner rather than later. At least for a couple games, there are going to be ups and downs in this offense. As far as who gets a turn, I believe Smith is due next, and that is why he is a great buy at his current price. He's got Miami and Washington up next after the Jets. Each one of those teams allows over 30 points per game to wideouts, and if we want to look even further down the line, during the playoffs and championship matchups, that's weeks 15 to 17, at least for most and for any normal leagues, the Eagles face Arizona, Seattle, and the Giants. All 3 of those teams give up top 10 production to receivers. So when you need him most, he is going to be set up for the most success. Philly is one of the best offenses in football. They score over 28 points per game. That is 5th most in the NFL. So we know he has lots of touchdown upside as well. Smith is not only going to pay off in the short term, he has that league-winning upside down the stretch. So I am selling somebody like Christian Kirk or Calvin Ridley. Either Jag wideout will do. They're at wide receiver 23 and 19 respectively. And I would take Smith rest of season over players like Garrett Wilson, who's wide receiver 29 right now. Chris Olave is way down at wide receiver 32 if you can make that magic happen. Or DK Metcalf down at wide receiver 34, fresh off of the bye, of course. Those would work as targets as well. My one and only running back in this week's episode is up next. It's James Cook from the Buffalo Bills. He was kind enough to grace us with an F game in London against the Jaguars. 5 carries, -4 yards, but he did have 3 receptions for a whopping 25 yards on 4 targets. If you are keeping track and can do math, I can do 1 out of 2. That is less than 3 yards a touch. So coming off of 3 straight top 18 performances, Cook may never be cheaper than he is right now. And I promise you one thing, he is not going to have a worse game all year than he just had against Jacksonville. Now up next, he gets the Giants and the Patriots. Spoiler alert, neither of those teams are very good. This guy's going to put up massive numbers against them, and then he becomes unattainable at a decent price. So we have to buy now while any type of window or doubt for owners could exist. Cook still played 62% of the snaps against the Jags. That was tied for a season high, so it's not like the usage went anywhere. He also had a 63% route participation, and Cook has 3 or more targets in every game this year but 1. So he has close to bell cow usage. He gets consistent work in the passing game, and he is in an elite offense. That's obvious. Buy. He has 75 total touches in 5 games. That's 15 per, but he only has 1 tutty on the year. That is clearly going to go up, especially in this high-powered offense. The Bills are going to keep scoring. They're averaging 32 points per game. That is the 3rd best mark in all of football. The tutties will come. I want pieces in Buffalo, especially ones that I can potentially get, at least right now, at a discount. And that is because James Cook, for me, is an RB1 for the rest of the season. But coming off of this Jacksonville game, you are not going to have to pay up like it. I would easily swap Cook for someone like Brian Robinson Jr. He's at RB11, so as crazy as that sounds, there is a possibility. Kyren Williams is also running back 5 right now. He would be a sell-off as well. If you have Derrick Henry the King, someone I've been basically trying to sell since week number 2 for a good price, I would want to swap him for James Cook straight up if possible. The last buy that I have is one of my favorite rookie wide receivers, someone I've loved since basically he was drafted for this team, and that is Zay Flowers. He has 10 or more targets in 3 of 5 games this year, at least 48 yards receiving in every game this season, so you love that consistency. Now the problem he's had is that he has not scored a touchdown yet, but he has flashed epic yard after the catch ability, and he has a whopping 29% target share on the year. Lamar Jackson loves to feed this guy. He has a massive game upcoming this week against the Titans, so we have to go grab him now or we are going to lose out. The competition that he is facing in Baltimore is a joke. It is severely lacking, to be kind. OBJ has been banged up, and when he's been healthy, he hasn't been that great. Rashad Bateman has an absolutely brutal case of the dropsies, so they are desperate for playmakers with ability, and Baltimore gets the Lions and the Cardinals after Tennessee. So that's all the good that we see from Zay Flowers. However, at this point, when we look at his ranking, wide receiver 36, he has a borderline flex option at this point for a reason, and so this is how you buy him. Zay does not have a week that he's finished inside the top 20 all season long, aka he doesn't have a ceiling. He is not even number 1 option in the passing game there with Mark Andrews. That is true because Lamar's connection with him is second to none. Baltimore is and always will be a run-first offense. That is kind of hard to ignore considering they've been a top 5 rushing team overall in each of the last 4 seasons. And then finally, you look at his ranking at wide receiver 36. Now, hopefully those selling points will allow you to pry Flowers away from his current owner, because the reality is Zay Flowers has been the wide receiver 1 in Baltimore basically since he was drafted, at least if you were asking me. Odell Beckham Jr., regardless of what he is getting paid right now, is just a guy, and Rashad Bateman could legitimately be cooked based on what he put on tape in week number 5. Zay Flowers is going to be the savior of this passing game at the wide receiver position for the Ravens. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If we look at the next 4 weeks, Baltimore gets the Titans, who have allowed the 8th most points to wide receivers at 32.5. The Lions, 13th most at 30 plus. The Cardinals, 7th most at 33 points per game. And then the Seahawks, 2nd most in the league at 39 points per game to wide receivers. You do not need to be a genius to see that Zay Flowers is going to feast. In a month, Zay is going to be a top 20 producer or better, and right now we can buy him at basically half of that price. Rest of the season, I am taking Zay Flowers over Terry McLaurin, who is currently wide receiver 38, Drake London, who is wide receiver 40, and even DeAndre Hopkins, who is sitting at wide receiver 33. If you can pull a magic trick and get him for someone like Courtland Sutton at wide receiver 35, easy sell, or Romeo Doubs at wide receiver 30, those are massive wins as well. Some players that I am still buying at their current price from previous episodes include Ramondre Stevenson, he's sitting at running back 27. Jahmyr Gibbs, after that injury week, is down at running back 35. I also love Jalen Waddle, even though he scored that tutty last week, he's still wide receiver 47. And Chris Godwin, fresh off a bye, down at wide receiver 49. All of those are awesome buy low options. Now into my sells, but before I kick it off, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It means the world to me. Drop your questions and comments down below for any trades. I love to have input and try to help you out and navigate what can sometimes be some pretty choppy waters. George Pickens is sell number 1. He's wide receiver 13. The time to get out is now. Deontay Johnson is going to be back in week 7 after the bye. He's already mentioned that in interviews. Pat Freiermuth will be returning to sap up targets in this, let's just say, under average passing attack as well. DJ has shown to be an elite target producer. So even if you think that George Pickens is the wide receiver 1 for this team talent-wise, that really does not matter. Johnson has shown he is going to earn and continually get his looks. Now, the other reason I am selling high on Pickens now is that most of George's production has come on big plays, and some of those were broken. That means they are unlikely to continue, especially when we're considering the horrible offensive coordinator in Matt Canada, who gets angry when his team scores touchdowns that he personally doesn't call, and a struggling and somewhat at least injured second-year quarterback in Kenny Pickett. To be fair about what we have seen in Pittsburgh, this offense looks broken, and it has for much of the year. The new offensive coordinator clearly is not meshing well with the quarterback, who has done the opposite, which was hard to do considering the low bar that he set of making that second-year jump. Pitt is also averaging less than 16 points a game. That is third fewest in the entire league. That means this is an offense you want out of ASAP. 3 out of the 5 games that Pickens has played this year, he has ended wide receiver 39 or lower. That floor is non-existent. Now, all of this is not a bet against the talent. I actually like overall George Pickens as a prospect, but this is more an acknowledgement of the offensive environment that he is playing in. We just have to be honest with where they are at. He is a borderline top 12 play at the position right now, but honestly, I'm taking any wide receiver 2 that I can get my hands on for him. Current underperformers that I would be looking to get back include either of the San Francisco 49er brothers, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. Doesn't matter to me. They're wide receiver 16 and 17. I would love to make that swap. Mike Evans at wide receiver 15 is a great option, and I already talked about Devontae Smith. He's wide receiver 27. Seems crazy, but I would love to be able to pull that type of a deal off. The next player I am looking to unload at hopefully his peak price is DeAndre Hopkins. He unfortunately has not lived up to the name value this year. He has just 1 game this season where he's finished higher than wide receiver 29. However, it is still early enough in this season. There's not enough bad tape yet where we should be able to capitalize off of the nuke name and sell high after the explosion he put up last week. Now, to set that up, Treylon Burks was out in that plus matchup against a poor Indy secondary, which aided that week 5 monster performance. 8 catches on 11 targets, 140 yards. Nuke was wide receiver 8 on the week. So we sell it like Nuke is back, and you could potentially and hopefully get a wide receiver 2 out of the deal. He's sitting at wide receiver 33, but with that name value, maybe you get a little bit of an upgrade. But if we're being honest and overall looking at what Tennessee brings to the table, there is not much touchdown equity in this passing offense. Nuke has yet to score this year, and that is because Ryan Tannehill doesn't give many opportunities to do so. He's got 2 touchdown passes this year, a whopping 5 interceptions. The slices of this pie are extremely slim, and Nuke has felt it. Less than 5 catches in 3 games this season, and to make matters even worse, the upcoming schedule that he has is not great. He's got Baltimore, Atlanta, Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, and Jacksonville. Of all of those teams, only the Steelers rank inside the top 14 as far as a plus matchup is concerned. So DeAndre Hopkins could be looked at as a risky flex, maybe even worse, sooner rather than later, especially in this Titans offense. So get what you can while you can. You know that I would take someone like Chris Olave, 1 spot below him at wide receiver 32, but maybe a more reasonable target could be my man Zay Flowers that we just talked about, or Chris Godwin, someone I have liked for the last couple weeks at wide receiver 49. Amari Cooper, fresh off of that dud game without Deshaun Watson, of course. He's at wide receiver 44. I would love to get him. Jalen Waddle again, wide receiver 47 is a great option. Tyler Lockett is a spot behind him at wide receiver 48. All are clear and awesome buy low options that I would do in a heartbeat. My final sell might be a little difficult, but that is all right because if it doesn't work out, holding him isn't the worst option either. But I want to bring it to your attention because if we can sell high here and get an excellent piece and an upgrade, I want you guys to have that opportunity. So DJ Moore up at wide receiver 3 is my next and final sell. He has gone nuclear in the last 2 weeks. He's racked up 361 yards and 4 touchdowns in that time. After last week's incredible performance in prime time, no less, it is time to cash in on him. The reason why I think he is going to fade a little bit, at least down the stretch, is because his current pace is not sustainable. His average yards per target have skyrocketed to unimaginable heights, and they will come back down to earth. Moore has the most points scored above expectation among all wideouts in the league. He is wide receiver 5 in points per game, but he is wide receiver 40 in expected points per game. Regression is coming. Now, he is still going to have his boom games without a doubt, but Chicago's offense has looked completely lifeless at times as well, so that regression is not exactly going to be surprising. We have seen the highs from Justin Fields. The massive upside that he offers is obvious. However, that does not mean that we can ignore the lows, and those have left me, in all honesty, questioning Fields' legitimacy as an NFL quarterback at times, and Moore is tied to Fields for better or worse. Bottom line, DJ Moore is an excellent real-life wide receiver who is going to occasionally fall victim to his surroundings. He has enough talent, and he likely will finish as a top 15 guy. That is looking like it is his floor, but it is foolish not to consider the upcoming valleys ahead. Now, as the current wide receiver 3, to be worth it to move him, I am looking for a king's ransom. Devontae Adams, Tony Pollard, A.J. Brown, Cooper Kupp, Bijan Robinson, Ken Walker, Stephon Diggs at wide receiver 2, Jamar Chase up at wide receiver 6, Travis Etienne at running back number 4. This is the type of talent that needs to be involved if I am moving DJ Moore, and if not, I am okay just riding the wave for the rest of the season. Some players I am still looking to sell at their current value include Derrick Henry. The king is running back 15 right now. Any running back 1-ish will do. Gabe Davis, he is wide receiver 12, smashing early on. Sell him while you can. Alvin Kamara is still a good buy. He is at running back 33, but he's only played 2 weeks, and he's been a running back 1 in both of those games. So if you can sell him for another top 12 option at the position, I would do it. And that's it. All I have for you guys in week 6 edition of Buy Sell. Hope I gave you guys some good players to target and think about and some good ways to do it. please let me know if you have any trade options available to you that you need help with. I love to be able to answer them. To all my current subscribers, thank you guys so much. You are the best. And if you have not joined us yet, please consider crushing that subscribe button and be one of the first 1,000 subscribers. This is Relentless Press. I'm your host, Abraham Opatz. Check back in Saturday for my start sits, and I will see you